Valentine's Day 2000. It's storming, like really coming down in Shelby, North Carolina. Inside, you've got a 9-year-old girl, Asha Degree, tucked in bed, seems totally sound asleep.
Right.
But then morning comes, her bed's empty, she's just vanished, going out into that wild, stormy night. What on earth could make a child do that? What's the reason?
Yeah, I mean, the mystery of Asha Degree, it's haunted that community for, what, a quarter of a century now? It's one of those cases that just, it grabs you immediately, you know?
Totally does.
A young girl, everyone says she was happy, well-adjusted. She leaves home during this terrible storm. It just doesn't make sense on the surface.
Not at all. And like you said, it gets weirder. It wasn't like she just wandered out in her PJs. Her backpack was gone.
Some clothes, too.
2 hair clips, things like that.
Right, which suggests what? Some kind of intention, planning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a 9-year-old planning to do what?
Right.
On a night like that. And look, after 25 years, this isn't some cold case file gathering dust, is it? There's talk of new leads, potential developments in 2025.
That's right. Which makes looking at it now feel, well, really relevant. Time does funny things in these cases. Maybe witnesses remember something new.
Or new tech comes along.
Exactly, new forensic tech.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes just the weight of all that time makes someone finally, talk. This recent activity, it does give a glimmer of renewed hope.
So for everyone listening, what we want to do in this deep dive is really get into the facts, the details we know about Asha's disappearance. Try to figure out the complexities here. What could have happened? Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. Who is Asha Degree?
Okay. Asha Jaquila Degree. Born August 5th, 1990 in Shelby, North Carolina.
Right there in Shelby.
Yep. And by all accounts, a pretty normal kid in a lot of ways. Sources paint this picture of a girl really close to her family. She had an older brother, O'Brien, only about 11 months older.
Close in age, then.
Very. She was known as quiet, maybe a bit shy, but apparently she was a real star on the basketball court. Point guard for her elementary school team, the Falston Bulldogs.
So quiet but athletic.
Seems like it. Her life seemed to revolve around her family and basketball,
Yeah, you get this picture of a stable childhood.
Right.
Her parents, Harold and Aquila Degree. Harold worked as a dock loader. Aquila made pianos. They lived on Oakcrest Drive. Seems like a safe, loving home.
Exactly. It's that very normalcy that makes what happened next so jarring. Because everything we know about Asha's personality, it just screams that this wasn't a kid who'd bolt.
How so?
Well, she was described as cautious, apparently scared of dogs. She'd never wandered off before, not even once. This wasn't some rebellious kid with a history of running away.
Right, scared of dogs. And she never wandered off.
Never.
Yeah.
Which makes you start thinking, why would she leave? What could possibly be the reason?
That's the huge question mark hanging over everything.
Uh-huh.
And it takes us to the night before she disappeared. February 13th, 2000. Storms rolling in. Really nasty weather.
Yeah. And Asha, she spent the evening just like lots of kids would, watched TV with her family, then went off to bed, shared a room with her brother.
And this part is just, wow. Her parents checked on them, right? Late that night.
Yeah, around 2:30 in the morning, Harold and Aquila checked, and both kids, Asha and O'Brien, were sound asleep in their beds.
So sometime between 2:30 a.m. and when they woke up.
Exactly. That's the window, a really narrow window when she must have left the house.
Which brings us to the morning. February 14th, Valentine's Day. Imagine Aquila Degree going to wake her kids up around 6:30 a.m. and Asha's bed is empty. Just empty.
It's every parent's absolute worst nightmare, isn't it? That immediate shock, the panic.
Unimaginable.
And then realizing pretty quickly that certain things were missing. Her white Cleveland brown shirt, some hair clips, and crucially, her backpack.
The backpack again.
Yeah, it immediately tells you this wasn't just like sleepwalking or something random. She took things with her, packed them. What does that suggest to you about her mindset?
It feels planned somehow, deliberate. But then you get these witness sightings, and they're just baffling. Around 4 a.m. that same morning, middle of the storm, pouring rain, multiple people reported seeing a little girl matching Asha's description, walking alone, south on Highway 18.
A 9-year-old girl, alone, in the dark, in a storm, walking down a highway at 4 a.m. It's a chilling image.
It really is. And then there's this specific encounter. A driver sees her, obviously concerned, right?
Yeah.
Sees a child alone in those conditions.
Anyone would be. You'd want to help.
Of course. So this driver turns the car around, goes back to check on her, maybe offer help.
And what happened?
This is the part that gives me chills. The girl, everyone believes it was Asha. She sees the car approaching, sees this person trying to help, and she runs, bolts off the road into the woods nearby,
Runs away from help.
runs away from help, and disappears into the trees. After that, nothing. Gone again.
Huh.
Why? Why run from someone trying to help you if you're lost and alone in a storm?
That encounter is just, it's so critical. It confirms she was out there on her own, miles from home, middle of the night. It takes it way beyond the kid just wandering off from the house. This was, like you said, deliberate.
Yeah. And the search effort that followed was huge, right? Immediately.
Oh, absolutely massive. Days of searching, police, FBI, volunteers, the whole community turned out. Dogs, helicopters scanning from above, people combing the woods, the highways everywhere, desperate for any sign.
But nothing initially.
Nothing. Despite all that effort, not a trace of Asha. It was just silence, a complete mystery until more than a year and a half later, August 2001.
Right, that's when the backpack turns up. A construction crew finds it.
Yeah, in Burke County, which is like 30 miles away from Shelby, a really significant distance.
30 miles? How did it get there?
That's the question, isn't it? And get this, it was found buried, wrapped in trash bags.
Buried. Okay, that's sinister.
It definitely points away from her just dropping it, right?
Yeah.
Inside, they found some items that were definitely hers. A new Kids on the Block t-shirt, a library book, things she'd packed.
But not Asha.
No. Tragically, not Asha, just her backpack, found so far away under suspicious circumstances. It just made the mystery even deeper. How did it get there? And crucially, where was she? What does the backpack being found like that so far off make you think?
It's really disturbing. It suggests either she traveled that far somehow, which seems unlikely for a 9-year-old on foot in those conditions, or someone took her and her belongings that distance.
Yeah, that feels more plausible, sadly. And the police response from the very start was serious. Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, they brought in the FBI almost immediately. They knew this wasn't typical.
Right, so the initial search areas, they were focused around her home, Oakcrest Drive, and that stretch of Highway 18 where she was seen.
Pretty much. Woods, roads, houses nearby. They interviewed everyone they could think of, family, neighbors, the witnesses who saw her on the highway, followed up every single lead.
And I bet there were a lot of leads coming in, right? People calling with sightings.
Oh, tons. Tips flooded in. Alleged sightings, some even way down in Georgia. And that detail about a green car kept popping up. A green car seen on Highway 18 around the time she vanished.
That green car, it seems to be a recurring theme.
It really does, and it stuck around. Years later, 2016, the FBI actually put out a specific notice about a vehicle of interest, a dark green 1970s Lincoln Mark IV or maybe a Ford Thunderbird.
Wow, that's specific. After all that time, what made them focus on that particular type of car so many years later?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It suggests some piece of information, maybe an old witness statement that got reevaluated, or maybe new info entirely pointed strongly towards that kind of vehicle. Makes you wonder what they learned.
Definitely. Okay, let's circle back to the backpack found in 2001. You mentioned DNA testing. What came of that? And why the secrecy around the results?
Right, so DNA was found. On the backpack, maybe the contents. Now, the specifics haven't been made public, which is pretty standard in ongoing investigations, but the word is the results gave them some, let's say, potentially significant clues, just not enough for an arrest or a final answer.
So they're probably holding that information close. Could be crucial.
Almost certainly. Revealing too much could compromise the investigation, tip someone off. You know, what kind of info do you reckon that might be? Could it be DNA not matching family?
Could be. Or maybe DNA matching someone they couldn't place at the time. It really fuels speculation. Okay, fast forward quite a bit now, 2024. Suddenly, there's a lot of activity around properties linked to a specific family, the Deadman family, in Cleveland County. What brought them into focus?
Yeah, that was a big development. It seems like a mix of things, maybe some older info combined with new leads. Investigators searched properties connected to them, and during that search, they found something interesting. A green 1964 AMC Rambler.
A green car. Not the exact model the FBI mentioned, but still.
Green. Exactly. The color alone is pretty striking, given the history of those green car tips, isn't it?
It definitely catches your attention. And there were reports about DNA links found connected to this car. What's the story there?
Yeah, reports surfaced suggesting DNA evidence found, maybe in or on items related to that Rambler, had connections to the Deadman's daughter, a woman named Lizzie Foster, and also to a man named Russell Underhill.
Russell Underhill. Who's he?
He's someone who actually died back in 2004, so finding a potential link between him, Lizzie Foster, and this car, well, it really intensified the focus on the Deadman family, opened up a whole new angle.
And that leads us pretty much up to this year, 2025. and the dig in Lincoln County. There was a lot of hope around that, wasn't there? A feeling of maybe this is it.
Huge anticipation. Everyone was watching, hoping for a breakthrough. But unfortunately, no.
Nobody found.
No human remains were recovered during that dig in Lincoln County, and still no arrests have been made based on that search. So we have these strong DNA links, these searches, the car, but still no definitive answers. What theories are floating around in your head now?
It's hard not to lean toward something sinister, given everything. Let's talk theories. Early on was the main idea that she just ran away, maybe upset about that basketball game she fouled out of.
That was definitely looked at initially. You have to consider it, right? But Asha's family, Harold and Aquila, they've always been adamant. Absolutely not. It wasn't in her character.
And it clashes with her personality, right? Scared of the dark, scared of storms.
Exactly. Plus, her fear of dogs. It just doesn't track with a kid deciding to walk miles down a highway in a thunderstorm in the middle of the night because she was mad about a game days earlier.
And the packed backpack still bugs me. If you're just running off impulsively angry, do you stop to pack clothes and hair clips?
It suggests planning, like we said. But planning for what? The circumstances just feel so off, so improbable for a runaway scenario.
Which makes abduction seem, well, more likely, doesn't it? Especially with those highway sightings.
It's a strong possibility. A vulnerable child alone on a dark highway. It's a terrifying thought, but it fits the little evidence we have of her being out there. That someone could have just encountered her.
And maybe that green car is connected to that. The FBI's focus on it seems to suggest they think it played a role, maybe in an abduction.
It certainly points that way. They wouldn't highlight a specific vehicle like that without a good reason. Then, of course, you have the Dedman family becoming so central recently.
Yeah, that alleged confession from Lizzie Foster, reportedly at a party in 2024, saying she killed Asha. That's huge.
It's incredibly explosive information, if true, and it's understandably drawn massive attention to her and her family.
And the DNA evidence linking Lizzie Foster and this Russell Underhill to items or maybe the car, it just adds more weight to that possibility, doesn't it? What more do we know about Russell Underhill's potential connection?
Not much publicly. We know he passed away in 2004. The exact nature of his link to the Dedmans or to Asha's case, investigators are keeping that tight. But the DNA suggests he might have been involved somehow, directly or indirectly. It just adds another layer of complexity.
It really does. It feels like we're moving further and further from a simple runaway theory. And the idea of a cover-up, has that been seriously considered, given how long it's been?
When a case goes cold for this long, especially when persons of interest emerge who maybe aren't fully cooperating, yeah, the possibility of a cover-up gets discussed. It's a logical thought process.
But still just a theory at this point.
Exactly. It's vital for listeners to remember that. We have strong suspicions, persons of interest, compelling circumstances, but no definitive, irrefutable proof yet. Nothing that's led to charges.
This case must have just ripped through the community in Shelby. You mentioned earlier it changed things there.
Oh, profoundly. Asha's disappearance shattered that small town sense of security. People became much more cautious, more aware of potential dangers. Sadly, it probably led to more fear, maybe suspicion of strangers. A tight-knit community suddenly faced this awful reality.
And Asha's parents, Harold and Aquila, their strength is unbelievable. Aquila still holds out hope. Asha's alive.
She does. She's maintained that belief, that unwavering hope for 25 years. It's both heartbreaking and just a testament to incredible resilience.
Absolutely. And her brother, O'Brien, he's still actively involved in keeping her story out there.
He is. He's been a constant advocate for his sister, working tirelessly. The family's commitment is just unwavering. It shows how much they love her and need answers.
And you see that commitment reflected in the community, too. The billboards with her picture, those age-progressed images trying to show what she might look like now, and that reward, $45,000.
Right. It shows she hasn't been forgotten. People still care deeply and want this resolved.
There's also a broader context here, too, isn't there? About how cases like Hush's are covered.
Yes, absolutely. Her case often comes up in discussions about missing while black. It highlights a really painful issue, the disparity in media attention and sometimes even law enforcement resources dedicated to missing persons of color compared to white missing persons.
It's a really important point. A reminder that every missing person deserves the same level of urgency, the same attention, regardless of their background.
Definitely. Asha's story, like too many others that remain unsolved for so long, becomes this sort of public grief, a constant painful reminder of the unknown and the devastating impact on the families left waiting.
And like we said at the top, this isn't just history. Things have been happening recently, especially around the 25th anniversary this year, 2025.
Yeah, that milestone definitely seemed to spur renewed activity. That search back on April 4th, 2025, on a former Deadman property in Lincoln County, that got a lot of people thinking, maybe, just maybe.
What exactly came out of that search? What were they looking for or finding?
Well, again, no physical remains were found. But reports suggested investigators were zeroing in on Lizzie Foster. Information surfaced about a polygraph test she'd apparently taken sometime in the past.
Yeah.
The results were reportedly deemed deceptive. On top of that, some text messages came to light, allegedly sent by her around the time Asha disappeared, that seemed to indicate panic or distress.
Wow. A deceptive polygraph and panic texts from back then.
Yeah.
That's pretty compelling circumstantial stuff. It certainly points fingers, doesn't it?
It adds to the suspicion, for sure. And those DNA links we talked about earlier, connecting items to Lizzie Foster and Russell Underhill, they were reportedly re-examined and sort of highlighted again during this recent push.
It's still no charges.
Still no charges filed against anyone. So even with these developments, the focus on the Deadman family, the DNA, the polygraph, the texts, was still missing that one crucial piece of evidence. That smoking gun needed to close the case.
So frustrating. For the family, for the community.
Absolutely. The community in Shelby, they get these glimmers of hope with each new search or piece of news, but ultimately, they're still left waiting, still desperate for answers, for justice for Asha, and just some peace after 25 years.
It's a story that just sticks with you, doesn't it? Asha Degree's disappearance. It has echoes of so many other cases where a young life is just cut short and the questions just linger forever.
They do, and the hope that these latest leads in 2025 brought, it's totally understandable. You want to believe that this time, maybe clarity will come, maybe the truth will finally surface.
But the reality is, Asha is still missing. Her family is still living with that awful uncertainty every single day.
Their strength is just incredible, and their need for answers, for peace, it's something you can't even fathom unless you've been through it.
So look, for anyone listening right now, if anything we've talked about today, any detail sparks even the tiniest memory, maybe something you saw back then, something you heard, something that seemed insignificant, please say something.
Yeah, don't assume it's not important. Let the investigators decide that.
Right? You can call the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office. The number is 704-484-4822. Again, that's 704-484-4822.
Seriously, any piece of information, no matter how small it seems, it could be the key. It could be what finally unlocks this after 25 long years and brings some kind of closure to Asha's family and everyone in Shelby.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the case of Asha Degree.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. A reminder how fragile things are, but also of that incredible hope that persists even after decades. We'll keep following the updates, of course.
We will.
The questions remain, though. What really happened that stormy Valentine's night in 2000, and where is Asha Degree? Those questions hang heavy, and all we can do is hope that someday, somehow, the truth comes out.